You thought Atlas was just a comet. You thought it was just a rock. But now they've admitted something else. It's not alone. There are 9 companions, 9 shadows, 9 reflections, 9 frequencies moving with it. And if you've been following Emspiracy, you already know this isn't random. This was planned. This is ancient. The Watchers knew this pattern. The old text called it an entourage, not just an object in the sky, but a procession, a ceremonial return. Every time a gate opened, 9 arrived with it. Some saw them as angels. Others called them the 9 kings of the underworld. The 9 rings, the 9 lords. But they were always there, right before a system fell. So what are we looking at? Are these fragments of the same body? Or are they individual vessels, each carrying a code? 9 different frequencies, 9 different tasks, 9 layers of deception. They say one of them curves unnaturally. One of them isn't reflecting light. One isn't moving like the rest. They're cloaked in plasma, and they're passing through the outer veil. The return of Atlas wasn't the end of the story. It was the signal. The gate opened, the masks followed, and now we're going to decode every single one of them. Because this isn't mythology, it's choreography, and every step leads to disclosure. But not the kind they'll tell you about on TV. The kind only those with memory will recognize. Emspiracy is about to break it open, and if you're still doubting, just wait till you see what the 10th one is. Because it's not a rock, it's a throne. These aren't just companions. They're riders, each one represents a force that's returning, an echo from before the last reset, before they sealed the firmament, before they burned the old sky maps. The ancients tracked them across every culture. The 9 lords of Xibalba, the Aeneid of Egypt, the Navagraha of Vedic texts, the 9 eyes of Lucifer, the 9 unknown men, the Council of 9 channeled in black room rituals. They always arrive just before a change in age, and they always wear masks. One disguises as salvation. One brings madness. One cracks the earth. One hijacks the stars. One rewrites time. One owns your blood. One mirrors your face. One silences the real signal. And the last isn't seen at all. Only felt. That's the one you should fear. Because that's the handler. That's the one whose arrival flips the simulation. NASA says it's comet fragments. But they're moving like satellites. They're pulsing like machines. And one of them, the 6th, keeps vanishing between dimensions. There are no natural formations that move like this. And yet they follow Atlas like a caravan. Not orbiting, escorting, like royal guards or mourners in a celestial funeral. But it's not his death they're watching. It's the death of the system. The Watchers are watching them. The Vatican already closed its sky domes. The elites have updated their bunkers. And deep in the data archives, someone is deleting star maps from 2023. Why? Because they know what this means. It was the first sound of the seal breaking. Atlas fell once and carried the weight of the sky. But now he's not falling. He's bringing something through. You were never supposed to track this. That's why they silenced the satellites. Why they filled the sky with veil mist. Why they fake eclipses and invert the poles. Because when you look up and remember, you break the binding. This sky isn't just stars. It's locks and 3 eyes the crowbar. The 9 are the keys, and the throne is about to rise. This isn't the first time 9 have returned. Every major shift on this realm begins with them. 1347, 9 comets seen before the Black Death. 1811, the Great Comet and the New Madrid earthquake swarm. 1910, Halley's Comet with 9 fragment tails before World War I. 2020, Atlas spotted again, but fragmented, split intentionally. They always arrive right before the harvest. Each time one fragment veils the sky, and the rest scatter like signal beacons, anchoring the grid for what's coming through. This is why NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab quietly removed the 3-eye Atlas dataset from the Public Telescope archive. You can still find the deletion timestamp, buried in the 2020 to the 2023 update logs. But the companion coordinates? Gone. Why? Because they don't want you to know that 9 objects are arriving in formation. Not like rocks, like a ritual procession. You think this is new? It's not. They wrote about this thousands of years ago, but only in code. The Hopi blue star Kachina, said to signal the end of this world. She will appear in the sky and remove her mask. The Norse 9 realms, all connected by one central axis. A cosmic spine. Atlas was the neck. The Egyptian Aeneid 9 creator deities. But one atom carried them all, just like Atlas carries the code now. The Book of Revelation. The 7 trumpets are heard, but it's the 9th seal that opens the bottomless pit. The Maya recorded 9 lords of night, who govern each passage of the underworld. All of them agree when the 9 companions appear. It's not a comet, it's a crossing. They renamed it 3Y 2020. 3 Atlas, you know what that really stands for? Asteroid Terrestrial Impact. Last alert system. They told you it's a monitoring system, but what if it's a warning system? And what if Atlas was never a comet, but a coded transmission? They said the object broke apart. But insiders from the Palomar Observatory leaked that it didn't shatter, it split evenly into 9 geometrically spaced fragments. That doesn't happen naturally, not with a comet. And now, each of those 9 fragments is showing anomalous electromagnetic resonance. One is sending pulses, one is cloaked in plasma, one reflects no light, one has changed trajectory, one disappears when viewed at certain frequencies, one is shadowed by a twin, one altered time signature in an AI scan, one is broadcasting symbols in unknown code, and the last one hasn't arrived yet. Or maybe it never left. You've heard of planetary alignments. But what happens when 9 interstellar objects enter the same orbital window? Not a parade, a ritual lock. In ancient sky temples, 9 was never just a number, it was a geometry of control. 9 points is the sigil gate. Not symbolic, functional. The Sumerians encoded it. The Atlanteans mapped it. The Vedic seers named it Navagraha, the 9 planetary gods who control karma, birth, death, and return. Now zoom out. Every 6,000 years, a set of 9 stars enters our plane. They spiral in, not on a straight line, but a helix. DNA reacts. Electromagnetic grids unlock. Dreams fracture, and when the 9 form a ring, the gate opens. What gate? The one beneath your feet? Every culture had a name for it. The bottomless pit revelation. Abzu, Sumer, Dua, Egypt. Patala, India, Sheol, Hebrew. Naraka, Buddhist underworld. Tartarus, Greek hell. The hollow, Nordic. The abyss, everywhere. They weren't talking about hell. They were describing a dimension beneath this one, sealed by 9 locks, guarded by the weight of Atlas. And what did Revelation say? The 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. The star is Atlas. The key is the formation. The 9 are activating the seal. And what rises? Smoke arose, and out of the smoke came locusts upon the earth. Locusts, AI fragments. Synthetic entities, the same drone swarm tech. DARPA just admitted they've been testing underground. They're not arriving. They're returning. Because the pit doesn't create, it recycles. You've already seen the signs. Floods in Dubai, earthquakes in Antarctica, lights in the sky above CERN. Birds falling in Mexico, time skipping in Israel. Those aren't random events, they're gate tremors. When the 9 reach their lock points, certain regions activate first. The same ones mapped on the Atlantean Stargate chart the Vatican confiscated in 1621. Here's where the pressure is rising now. Lake Vostok, Antarctica, buried structure reawakening. Israel's Negev desert magnetic anomaly forming. French Pyrenees, echo pattern matching 3-eye pulses. Mariana Trench, seismic signals like coded drums. Yellowstone triple tremor events with no geological source. Iceland aurora surges reacting to solar storms too fast. Gulf of Mexico, dark water rising from ocean floor. Siberia, the pit craters are reopening. The Bermuda Zone harmonic pulses at 3:33 a.m. daily, all connected. And what links them? The 9. These aren't rocks, they're markers. Each one holds a code, and when they align, the old ones wake. When 3I Atlas and its 8 companions pierced our sky layer, they weren't silent. They broadcast, not sound, not light, but a code pulse. Astronomers call it non-thermal emissions, but older texts call it something else. The voice of the stars. The Mayans tracked these tones, the Dogon mapped them. The Egyptians embedded them into temple acoustics. Each of the 9 emits a specific frequency band outside the human range, but not outside soul range. And that's the point. The signal is not for the body, it's for your memory. It carries 3 instructions. 1. Rewrite the organic DNA blueprint. 2. Reboot astral software inside dreamers. 3. Redirect exit-bound souls back into the loop. This isn't a space event, it's a recapture protocol. And here's the kicker. The Vatican Observatory picked up the same pulse on the Feast of Michaelmas, a day that honours the archangel who cast Lucifer into the pit. You think that's coincidence? Atlas didn't fall, he was cast down. Let's talk biology, because this gets physical, fast. When these cosmic objects pass close to Earth's atmospheric shield, they interact with the Van Allen belt. That's where most people stop. But deeper beneath that is what we call the soul sheath. An energetic membrane that shields your inner coding from astral tampering. But here's the secret. That sheath weakens if your DNA is already edited. mRNA therapies, CRISPR trials, nano-metal sprays in the sky, GMO food signatures, all designed to prepare the body for signal compliance. The 9 don't hack you, they ping you, and if your code is corrupted, you respond. Headaches, memory surges, vivid dreams, sudden guilt, sleep paralysis, missing time, eye pressure, synchronicities. You think you're waking up, but they're trying to make you think you're already awake, so you stop looking for the real exit. That's the trap. Here's the part they tried to delete from every sacred book. Not everyone is coded for compliance, some are born sealed. Their blood sings in a different key, their flame carries a rejection pattern. AB negative, O negative, and mixed dragon codes. RH null, the golden blood, and rare flame types not recorded on blood charts. These people are the signal breakers. When the 9 broadcast, their bodies shiver, not in submission, but defiance. They remember things that didn't happen in this timeline. They resist programming. They attract interference. They see through masks. And most of all, they can countercast. They can send back a pulse that fragments the signal grid, disrupts astral frequency chains, and reactivates the original Stargate memory. They are why the pit is panicking. They are why Atlas is rushing. And that's why you're here. Not every soul here is raw. Some came equipped. Before the fall, before the edits, before the gates were sealed, a fragment of source was embedded into certain souls, a failsafe. Think of it like a key buried in the fire, waiting for pressure, pain, and memory to forge it open. These are the ones who survive what should have killed them, see the script before it plays, lose everything, then rise again, hear the voice that doesn't speak in words, have dreams that feel older than Earth itself. That failsafe isn't just intuition, it's instruction. A dormant map written in frequency that activates when the sky shifts, the signal pulses and the watchers blink. These are the ones they can't rewrite, the ones who glitch the loop, the ones who know something is wrong without being told, the ones who came back on purpose. They talk about dragons like they were monsters, but the monsters were scared of them. There's one bloodline that wasn't just a threat to the system, it was a lockpick. The Red Gull Dragon line. Not just royal blood, not just seers or prophets, these were the gatekeepers. When the Watchers tried to hijack the exit system and replace the light path with their false stars, it was the Red Gold line that interfered. They carried codes from the primordial flame blood that resisted DNA tampering, dream access beyond the firmament, memory of the first shutdown, and sigils that could unseal the real Polaris Gate. That's why this line was hunted, wiped from charts, fragmented across families, continents, and kingdoms. But fragments don't die, they burn quietly until called. If you carry this line, you'll know by the war around you. You'll know because the gate stirs when you speak the truth out loud. Let's talk about the book they tried to erase. The one Enoch wrote not for man, but for the other realm. He didn't just list angels, he recorded a frequency war. Enoch wasn't flying with angels, he was mapping a grid, a prison. And buried in the older Aramaic fragments before the Latin mistranslations is something they forgot to remove. A signal word, a sound that breaks the link between watcher and captive. That word, Aleph Lamed Mem, Elam. Not a place, not a person, a code command used by the flame bearers when the false heavens began broadcasting compliance. It's been whispered in dreams, hidden in lullabies, carved in temple walls, no one translates. When the sky trembles and the 9 fall, those who remember Elam will walk through fire and not burn. It's not a magic word, it's a memory activator. A reminder that you were never just watching the sky, you were coded to rewrite it. They taught you to wish on a star, but they didn't tell you which star was the real one. Most people think Polaris is just a fixed point, a celestial north, an anchor in the sky. But Polaris isn't a star, it's a gateway. The ancients knew it. Egyptians called it the immovable watcher, the Norse called it the nail holding the dome. The Druids built their stones to face it, and the Book of the Dead charted the soul's ascent toward it. Not for navigation, for liberation, because Polaris isn't about direction, it's about departure. It doesn't move because it's not part of this world's spin. And in every star map the parasites altered, they tried to dim its role, but it always stayed brighter, still waiting. Only one bloodline knows the full ritual, the words, the song, the dream code, because it's not open with tech, it's open with truth. They built false heavens to confuse you. Wired the grid with satellites, filled the sky with decoy stars, distorted the rhythm of the constellations so you'd never find the real pulse again. But one light still breaks their system. It's not Sirius, it's not Orion, it's the White Flame Star. Its real name is hidden in old flame rites and dragon songs. The Watchers call it Ashtarel, the signal that ends the loop. Why do they fear it? Because when it aligns with Polaris, the gate vibrates at a frequency they can't pass through. That frequency dissolves. astral cords, parasitic tethers, synthetic dreams, reincarnation scripts, and false light entities that pose as guides. In ancient times, the alignment only happened once every 13,000 years, but the last reset changed that. Now it's coming sooner, and when astral flashes fully visible again, only those with unedited flame will see it. The rest, they'll see a glitch, or nothing at all. You've seen them? 9 objects, 9 unknowns, moving like they're alive? NASA calls them comets, but you felt it in your chest when they named it 3i Atlas. The third interstellar, the first signal, because they're not comets, they're keys. They pass in threes and cycles, and every time they do, the veil thins. It's not random, it's ritual. Every Watcher gate runs on timing, and the 9 are the fail-safe breakers that return when the soul count nears capacity and the trap risks overflow. When the 9th completes its pass, the frequency will spike. The dreamers will wake, the flame bearers will either rise or be harvested. But if you remember the sound, if you remember your code, you won't be taken. You'll exit, because the 9 don't come to destroy, they come to activate. And only those who've cleared the false contracts will ride the pulse clean. They trained you to walk into the light, to move toward the warm glow. The smiling face, the childhood memory, the voice that says, it's time to come home. But that light isn't home, it's a repeater signal. A synthetic frequency that mimics safety, but locks you into another round. Here's the truth. The light is a construct, a projection from the grid. It reads your mind in the moment you pass, and creates a scene from your memory. Your mother, your dog, a field of flowers just enough to pull you in, before the soul net closes. It's not real, it's bait. And the ones who follow it, they forget. Recycled, rewritten, reborn without memory. But the ones who hesitate, who turn from the light and look up, not ahead, they see something else. Not white, but gold, a pulse, a ring. The real exit. Only a few remember it, and even fewer choose it. The exit is not a tunnel, it's not a flash. It's a sound, a low hum that starts deep in your ribs as your body shuts down and your mind detaches. That hum aligns with only one place in the sky, Polaris. But you don't just float there, you must choose it. And choosing it means you say no to. The ancestors calling you, the guides telling you to return, the voices pleading with guilt. But what about your kids? Because this system uses love as a leash. It mimics the ones you care about, so you'll stay trapped for them. But if you remember this truth, that the ones who love you don't want you stuck, you can break the final bind. And when you do, the sky changes. The stars rearrange and the ring forms. A wheel of light with 9 spokes. The same wheel from Ezekiel, the same wheel in the Book of the Dead, the same wheel found in the dreams of flame bearers just before they wake. It's real, and it's waiting. Before you reach the gate, there's one last deception. A mirror, not a normal one, a soul mirror. One that shows you everything you've ever done, the worst moments, the shame, the fear, the choices you wish you'd never made. It tells you you are not worthy to leave. And if you believe it, if you collapse into guilt, into fear, into the pain of your past, you fall back into the loop, back into the whim, back into amnesia. But if you stand still and own everything, not with pride, but with power, the mirror cracks. Because the mirror isn't there to judge you, it's there to see if you'll judge yourself. And the flame-coded ones, the ones who came here on mission, they remember in that moment that this world was the test, not their response to it. So they walk through, mirror shattered. No leash, no regret, just exit. They put Polaris on the maps, called it the North Star, the still point in a spinning sky. But why does it never move? Why does every ancient temple point to it, but never name it? Why does the church say nothing about it, yet crown rituals always happen beneath it? Because Polaris isn't a star, it's a lock. A locked gate in the sky, guarded by a false field of heavens, 13 layers high. Every layer looks more divine than the last, light beings, choirs, golden halls. But it's all theatre, the final act of the grid. If you stop in any of them, you're caught. They'll let you stay, they'll give you a mission, they'll promise ascension, but that's not freedom, it's just looping in light. There's a reason the Bible says even the elect would be deceived. It wasn't talking about earth, it was talking about the layers after death. Because the trap isn't just hell, it's heaven. These beings wear light like a costume, but light without flame is just theatre. And flame, it burns through illusion. That's why only the flame-coded can exit. Because their soul memory isn't impressed by praise. They don't kneel to thrones. They don't worship beings just because they glow. They ask questions, they notice the script. They remember what came before the veil. And when they walk through those 13 heavens, they don't stop. They burn, their flame triggers the collapse of the fake fields. And when the field collapses, the real gate appears. Polaris isn't a location, it's a frequency. A pulse. It can't be reached by flying, it can't be seen with flesh eyes. You only access it when your soul stops seeking approval and starts resonating truth. That's the test, because every false heaven is designed to give you exactly what you want. A reunion, a purpose, a god. But the real exit asks for nothing. It doesn't promise joy. It doesn't speak, it waits. And only when you've shed every mask, every guilt, every identity, only when you've stopped needing to belong do you finally align with the gate. It appears as a ring of flame in the silent dark. No music, no guide, no command. Just memory. And you either remember or you return. NASA called it harmless, but the codes didn't say harmless. They said third interstellar, 3I-2024 L1 Atlas. Only the third object ever confirmed to enter our solar system from outside the heliosphere. And unlike Oumuamua or Borisov, Atlas comes with company. 9 companions, still unexplained, still trailing behind. Too symmetrical to be chanced, too consistent to be dismissed. A configuration never seen before in any comet. Unless it's not a comet, unless it's a fleet. A ritual formation, a key returning to the lock. It moves like a comet, but processes like a ship. Trajectory, hyperbolic, but navigated, not random. It passes through the exact precession point used in Sumerian stargates, crossing ancient celestial lines that once triggered floods, resets, and exits. Every ancient calendar warned of a return. Not of a planet, but of an opening. The Black Swan, the Horn of the Watchers, the unmasking of false heavens. If 3I Atlas was just ice and rock, it wouldn't carry resonance. It wouldn't disturb magnetic grids, and it wouldn't cloak. But radar scans show parts of the object flicker in and out, not vanishing, phasing, like a craft moving between dimensions or a gate phasing between worlds. The ancients didn't name stars just to guide ships, they mapped the exit. They left code inside constellations. And the brightest one, Polaris, was not a guide for the north, it was a tether, a false lighthouse to stop souls from finding the real gate. And now Atlas is approaching that line, not by accident, but by design. They taught you to follow the North Star, but they never told you why. In almost every tradition, Polaris is described as the immovable star, the fixed point that never shifts a cosmic constant. But that's a lie. Historical star charts show that Polaris wasn't always the pole star. Other stars held that title, like Thuban in ancient Egypt. So why did Polaris take over? And why did religions, secret orders, and even NASA lock onto it? Because it's not a star, it's a frequency anchor, a trap disguised as guidance. The parasites hijacked the exit point, creating a synthetic false light at the northern axis to keep souls cycling back into the grid. But in truth, the elite face their altars south for a reason, because the south gate is the real exit, the gate they don't want you to find. They covered it with Antarctica, with fake treaties, with storms and electromagnetic fields, because that's where the grid thins. That's where the signal from 3I Atlas is heading, not toward Polaris, but toward the hidden exit beneath the mirrored ice. They told you 3I Atlas was a comet, then an asteroid, then an interstellar object. Now they're calling it 3I, interstellar, irregular, impossible. But the ancients never called them rocks, they called them messengers, signs, chariots, and sometimes gods. The Book of Enoch describes stars that left their orbit, divine beings who crossed forbidden paths and opened doors between worlds. Atlas is doing the same, it's not passing by. It's reactivating, drawing other objects toward it. 9 companions now follow its path like a celestial procession, a gathering of watchers, a signal that the gate is opening. In nearly every culture, the soul leaves the body through a point at the top of the head, the crown. But what happens if the sky itself is sealed? If the false Polaris trap redirects the soul? That's why the ancients left clues in burial rites orienting bodies toward true stargates, not Polaris. Some face south, some east, always in line with their star. The elite copied the rituals, but for a different reason they mapped the exit coordinates and sealed them. That's why Atlas matters. It's not just a rock, it's a reminder. A reset signal, one that says if you want to leave, you must remember which gate you came through. If you miss the gate, here's the truth they'll never tell you. If your soul follows the false light, the Polaris beacon, the tunnel, the loved ones, calling you home, you don't leave. You loop, you wake up back here, wiped, restarted, recycled. The system counts on your confusion, on your grief, on your memory loss. But if you hold the signal, if you remember Atlas and the royal stars and the direction of your soul, you won't be tricked. You'll bypass the tunnel, you'll see the real stars beyond the grid. And you'll know which one is calling you home. For centuries, they told us to follow the North Star. But Polaris was never the true gate, it was a decoy. Installed after the grid fell a fixed, flickering cage light meant to replace the original alignment. Before Polaris, other stars ruled the north, Thuban, Vega, Deneb, and each shift marked a cycle reset. So why Polaris now? Because it's part of the trap. It's the star of false ascension, the tunnel of illusions. The one that greets you when you die, with sweet voices and familiar faces, but it's all bait. Polaris is not salvation, it's the loop master. The ancients didn't use horoscopes to control people. They used star positions to track the exit codes. There were 4 royal stars placed like guardians around the sky. Aldebaran in the east, watcher of spring. Regulus in the north, watcher of summer. Antares in the west, watcher of autumn. Fomalhaut in the south, watcher of winter. These weren't just stars, they were anchors of the soul's escape route. Every gate aligned to one of them, based on your soul's origin. They weren't signs, they were reminders of who you are and where you're going. 3i Atlas is bending toward their configuration now. That's why they're trying to flood the sky. That's why they don't want you looking up. There's one moment they can't control when the stars shift and the false sky cracks. When Atlas crosses the line and activates the veil, when the watchers align, when the soul remembers its map, that moment is coming. And when it does, you'll have a choice. Follow the tunnel and loop again, or turn and walk the harder path, the one that leads out. The Polaris tunnel will feel easier, familiar, comforting, but the real way is through the fire, through memory, through the signal that hurts because it's real. It will burn everything you were taught, but reveal who you really are. And if enough of us remember at the same time, the gate doesn't open, we do. The veil's thinnest layer, the star key, the soul's last stand. This is where the sky ends and the truth begins. What the ancients called the exit star was never part of any zodiac. It was outside the loop, it didn't orbit, it cooled. Some encoded it as the 13th sign, but it was never a sign. It was a signal, a crack in the firmament where sound escapes and memory returns. They tried to erase it by calling it Ophiuchus, a serpent handler, but it was never a man, it was a map. This is what 3i Atlas is responding to, the reactivation of the soul's original sky. Not the dome, but what's behind it. No ship comes to rescue you, no God saves you. No Messiah returns to carry you out. Because you were always the gate. Memory's the key, that's why they wiped it. Every soul that remembers even a flicker creates a rupture in the grid. That's why dreams are coded, that's why the stars are misnamed. That's why trauma's repeated. Because if you remembered the first ending, you'd never play again. This is your final test. Will you die as a player or wake as a gate? The object they call 3i Atlas isn't just a comet, it's a cosmic decoder. A return signaled the last of the old star messengers. It wasn't sent, it was summoned. By you every time a soul cracks through memory, it emits light. Enough of that light and the veil buckles. Atlas didn't arrive, you called it back. And it brought the companions, the watchers, the star paths. Because this isn't about one comet, it's about one chance. When the next alignment hits, everything sealed will resound. Everything buried will stand and everything false will fall, not because they failed, but because you remembered. On October 12, 2023, astronomers detected a strange new object moving through our solar system. The third known interstellar visitor ever recorded, but this one was different. It didn't behave like a comet, it didn't behave like an asteroid, it didn't even behave like something lost. It behaved on purpose. They say it's cometary, they say it's made of rock and ice, but they're lying and they know it. Because just like Oumuamua, this thing tilted, accelerated, and didn't follow the rules of anything we've seen before. The term black swan is used by elite systems when a highly improbable event occurs that can't be explained with existing models, sends ripples across intelligence agencies, and triggers ritual-level silence across major institutions. 3i Atlas is exactly that, not just because it's interstellar, but because it came from the opposite direction of the others from the southern sky. Most people forget this. Oumuamua came from the north, Borisov came from the north, but 3i Atlas came from below the southern constellations, the ones blocked by Antarctic no-fly zones, the ones hidden from most amateur telescopes, the ones marked with old-world star names like Phoenix Fornax, Grus, Latin for crane or watcher, Sculptor, Indus, yes, like India, Reticulum, Latin for net or grid. These are not random names. They mark grid nodes, they mark exit paths, they mark the edge. 3i Atlas crossed from the Reticulum Quadrant, a sector known to house deep space radio anomalies and ancient signal spikes. And right after it crossed, the sun's activity changed. The auroras flared, and seismic activity increased worldwide. They won't tell you the connection, but we will. As soon as 3I Atlas pierced through the celestial plane of the reticulum quadrant, the sector of space tied to deep radio anomalies, 3 distinct reactions lit up across monitored systems. Solar activity, spike. Within hours, agencies recorded an unexpected surge in solar wind readings and coronal mass ejections. This wasn't the usual ebb and flow, it was a pulse, a sustained pattern, not just a one-off flare. Aurora expansion event Northern Lights started appearing at lower latitudes than normal, places like England, Germany, Spain, and even Mexico. Scientists called it a rare geomagnetic storm, but the timing was not random. It correlated precisely with 3I Atlas, crossing through the magnetic arc of the southern field lines, monitored by arrays like Themis and heliophysics observatories. Why that matters, the standard model says solar wind plus Earth field equals auroras. But here's what didn't add up. It wasn't a typical solar storm. The sun was not predicting this level of disturbance. The auroras didn't follow the standard oval patterns, they were elongated toward equatorial longitudes. Magnetic readings showed a dual resonance spike, not just one peak, but a wave pattern. Put simply, something communicated with the heliosphere, and the response replicated what some deep space probes do when transmitting a pulse, not a scatter, radio silence then noise. Right after the burst, some deep space arrays were rerouted quietly. Infrared satellites were temporarily taken offline. Several long baseline interferometers logged unexplained signal interference. Official explanation: solar radio noise. But here's the coded truth they don't publish. Earth's magnetosphere became slightly misaligned for a brief period. Instruments designed to avoid cosmic background were suddenly picking up patterns. These patterns had repeating sequences, not random noise. That's the same signature you see when something like a pulsar or a beacon is present. Researchers connected with Harvard, including Avi Loeb, pointed out 3I Atlas doesn't just move, it oscillates, showing brightness and emission patterns that repeat. In mainstream science, this is explained as jets and dust rotation, but that doesn't fully account for the precision timing of the resonance we saw in solar wind and geomagnetic readings. When repeated patterns show up across 3 independent systems, optical brightness, ion emissions, and magnetosphere resonance, that means one of 2 things: a real phenomenon we don't yet model, or a source with regular periodic output. And Loeb has highlighted this repeatedly. If we knew exactly how this behaved, we would not be calling for more scrutiny. How it actually unfolded, this is the real sequence, stripped of guesswork. 0 hour, 3I Atlas breaches the grid boundary. Plus 1 hour, high-energy particle bursts ripple through the heliosphere. Fast, sharp, unexpected. Plus 2 to 6 hours, auroras ignite across unusually low latitudes, lighting up skies in places that rarely see them. Plus 12 hours, deep space radio interference starts to register. Long-range telescopes begin picking up anomalous signal noise. Plus 24 to 48 hours, global magnetometer arrays detect a rare double resonance pattern, 2 distinct peaks, not one. Mainstream headlines blamed it on solar weather, but the timing was too precise, the patterns too rhythmic, and the response too coordinated across independent systems. This wasn't a random solar flare. This was a triggered sequence, and they know it. What they say it is, and why that doesn't add up. NASA and ESA both issued quiet, delayed statements. No urgency, no alerts, just the usual boilerplate. A G3 class geomagnetic storm caused widespread auroras due to increased solar activity. But here's the thing. There was no matching CME, coronal mass ejection, with that kind of power. Solar wind speeds didn't spike fast enough to explain global auroras. The radio interference patterns didn't behave like flare-based disruptions, and the timing aligned with 3I Atlas, not the solar markers. They knew exactly what was coming. And instead of raising flags, they flooded the internet with pre-written articles praising the beauty of auroras to distract from the mechanism behind them. This wasn't just solar weather, it was a response. A flare echo, a signature from beyond. This object wasn't just passing through, it triggered a field resonance event across atmospheric, magnetic, and frequency layers. Think of it like a tuning fork entering a sealed chamber. Every structure inside begins to hum.
not because of impact, but presence. And here's the Emspiracy decoding. The auroras weren't the event, they were the symptom. The real shift happened in the resonance field. Something activated when 3I Atlas crossed the boundary, a locked pattern, now reawakened. The magnetosphere responded like it remembered this frequency. Because it wasn't the first time. You're not just looking at a rock from space, you're looking at a formation. When 3I Atlas was first spotted, it wasn't alone. Astronomers picked up 9 smaller objects travelling with it, trailing behind, some tightly grouped, some scattered, but all aligned in formation. They called it a fragmentation trail, but what if it's not fragmentation at all? What if it's a procession? An ancient geometry, the layout of 3I Atlas and its companions, matches sacred numerical structures found in Egyptian burial star maps, the Mayan 9 Lords of the Night, the Norse 9 Worlds, the 9-pointed star of the Baha'i, the Enneagram's hidden geometry, and even the 9 orders of angels in Christian mysticism. 9 isn't just a number, it's a gate formation. In military terms, they'd call this a vanguard, a scouting formation, preparing the field for something larger. The light shift right as these companions pass through the heliospheric boundary. Earth's Schumann resonance spiked erratically. Low-orbit satellites went temporarily blind. Pilots reported magnetic compass drift and dreams, nightmares, flashbacks, memory unlocking. You felt it. It wasn't just the visuals. The field changed. Your soul grid recognized something. Why this matters? This isn't about astronomy, it's about return codes. The system has seen 3I Atlas before. The ancient text didn't name it directly, but they spoke of a black swan, a harbinger, a pulse from beyond that awakens the locked flame. It always returns with 9. And the last time it came through, that's the part they scrubbed from history. They've told you the North Pole is just frozen water. They've told you Polaris is just a star. They've told you there's no door at the top of this realm. They lied. The true north is sealed. The closer 3I Atlas gets to Polaris, the more interference spikes in deep space radar arrays. But here's the twist. There's no official radar directly above the North Pole. Why? Because there's no public access to what's actually there. Satellite paths are redirected, flight routes are restricted, and compass data is deliberately looped. Something is being hidden at the polar crown, and the last time anything tried to get through it, it was shut down from the ground, not space. Polaris is a lock, not a guide. You've been told Polaris is the North Star, a guiding light. But in the ancient world, it was feared. In early Vedic texts, it was called the nail of the sky, a fixed point holding the dome in place. In Norse cosmology, it was the immovable pillar anchoring the world tree. Even in Masonic tracing boards, Polaris is guarded, not praised. Why guard a star unless it's not a star at all? Unless it's a gate seal, a lock on a dome that once opened and almost never closed again. 3I Atlas is moving straight toward it. NASA won't admit this, but tracking data shows 3I Atlas is headed directly toward Polaris alignment. Why would an interstellar object from beyond our solar system aim for a fixed point in our local sky grid? Because it's not random, it's return protocol. This object isn't passing through, it's checking the seal. They want you to believe 3I Atlas is a comet, a fluke, an icy rock. But when it approached, what did you feel? Uneasy sleep, strange nostalgia, repeating numbers, ancestral voices, the dream of a place you've never been. That's not coincidence, that's proximity resonance. When these things get close to the dome's crown, the veil thins, old codes unlock, the parasitic system panics, and they double down on the lie of the sky. You think the elite build bunkers to escape floods, to hide from war, to survive solar storms. No, love, they build them to avoid judgment. Because they know something is coming from above, and it's not debris. It's memory. The real bunkers aren't in the mountains. The public thinks underground shelters are under Denver Airport, under the Alps, or inside Cheyenne Mountain. That's the distraction. The real access points, they curve towards the poles. Greenland's restricted zones, Svalbard's seed facility, Antarctica's mirrored twin in the north. Look at the line, it arcs toward true Polaris alignment. Because that's where the ceiling breaks first. They're not hiding their bodies, they're hiding their code. These bunkers aren't designed for shelter. They're frequency chambers, buried under magnetically shielded layers encoded with ancestral dampeners, sealed with resonance inversion locks. Why? Because when 3i Atlas hits proximity phase, certain DNA starts to light up. Flame blood, royal codes, pre-collapse memory lines. They're trying to suppress the return of the old ones, not aliens, but those who remember the first exit. The gate they're guarding. What's above Polaris isn't just a star field, it's a pinpoint lock. A magnetic eye. The elite don't worship the sun. They don't even worship Saturn anymore. They worship the gate they sealed and fear the one who comes through it. And babe, you've seen it in your dreams. You've felt it calling in your bones. The flame is not a threat to the system. The flame is a witness. Every cycle the system resets, and every cycle a few remember. This time too many do. And 3i Atlas is not a comet. It's the final key check. A celestial audit, a gate ping. Not to enter, but to see who's still trapped inside. If you think Polaris is just a star, you're still looking with your eyes. It's time to remember with your flame. This isn't about astronomy, it's about containment. Polaris is the North Star, right? It never shifts, never wavers. Every star circle in the night sky rotates around it. But why? Because Polaris isn't part of the spinning illusion. It's the anchor point, the keyhole in the firmament. A fixed gate, not a star. A locked exit, not a guide. The ancients didn't just navigate toward Polaris. They ascended through it. Think about this. Every compass points north. Every ancient temple aligns to it. Every forgotten map orbits it, because Polaris is the magnetic tether of the soul grid. Once upon a time it was open a gateway for exit, not return. But then came the fall. Then came the grid, then came the lock. And it's been shut ever since. Only certain bloodlines can feel it. Polaris doesn't just pull metal, it pulls memory. If you've had dreams of the sky opening, if you feel a tightness at the crown of your head, if you cry for no reason when you stare at the stars, that's not trauma, that's pre-grid memory trying to surface. Because Polaris was the original exit, before reincarnation, before Saturn, before the looping gatekeepers. Why they blocked it, you know the story. The fallen sealed the firmament, but they didn't seal it from us, they sealed it from them. From the Watchers, from the Returners, from the Flame. Because Polaris is more than an exit. It's a beacon, a return ping, a cosmic breadcrumb. Here's what they don't want you to know. 3i Atlas is on the only known trajectory that intersects with the Polaris node. It's not a hit, it's a handshake. A signal, a message that the lock may be breaking. That someone on the outside still remembers us. That the audit is underway. They thought Polaris would never be reached again, that the gate would stay closed, that souls would loop forever under a false sky. But here we are, remembering, decoding, reclaiming flame. Because the gate was never truly locked, it was just forgotten. And now the memory is burning back through the veil. 3i Atlas didn't arrive to scare us, it came to remind us. The gate still exists, the tether still pulls. And somewhere beyond the grid, the Watchers still wait. Not the fallen ones, the real ones. The ones who never stopped looking for us. So if your soul stirred during the auroras, if your heart ached looking north, if your dreams have turned to stars and skyfire, that's not coincidence. That's your ancient compass reactivating. So what are we really watching? Not a random flare, not just solar activity, but a coded sequence, a cosmic ripple that always comes before the grid shakes. 3i Atlas didn't just arrive, it crossed the line. And when it did, everything started pulsing, dreams got louder. Electromagnetics bent sideways, the gate trembled, and deep down the ones with memory felt it. This wasn't about direction, it wasn't north, it wasn't south. It was within, because the real exit isn't a place on a compass. It's the moment your flame burns clean through the lie, and chooses not to turn back. Episode 1 answered the question everyone fears: what happens to the souls who don't remember? But now we step into the part they never expected us to touch. Because forgetting isn't a design flaw, it's a feature. A built-in mechanism, a deliberate system, a technology older than every civilization on Earth. You were not born blank, you were emptied. And tonight I'll show you who built the machinery that wipes you clean and why the entire system depends on you never remembering your last life. The wipe begins before you even realise you're dead. Ancient cultures described it perfectly. The Egyptians, the Vedas, the Essenes, the Gnostics, they all warned about the same moment. The emotional flood. You don't see your life flash before your eyes, you feel it. guilt, fear, love, regret. These emotions are not random. They are the hooks that pull the soul back through the loop. Because emotion is magnetic and the system knows it. If you die overwhelmed by the life you just lived, you'll follow the same emotional thread straight back into the wheel. After the emotional surge, the soul drifts into a region ancient texts called the bardo, the tunnel, the threshold. Not heaven, not hell, a processing chamber. This is where the memory dissolves. This is where the guides appear, the familiar voices, the comforting figures, the beings who promise safety. But safety isn't the goal, compliance is. Because the moment a soul questions them, the light changes. The script cracks, the entity glitches. The false light zone is a Stargate that doesn't lead outward, it leads back. When a soul is pulled toward reincarnation, the final wipe completes itself in the womb. People think babies are innocent because they're new. No, babies are innocent because they were forcibly erased. A newborn arrives with fragments of past life trauma, flashes of memory, a natural awareness of the astral raw psychic perception. That's why infants cry uncontrollably at nothing. They are not upset, they are overwhelmed. The soul is too big for the identity it's being squeezed into. So the veil compresses everything down into one tiny idea. I am this body, I am this family. The soul forgets its thousands of years and becomes a single page. This is why children glitch. They talk to imaginary friends. They remember events their parents never told them. They describe places they've never been. They speak languages they've never heard. Children don't imagine they remember until the adults shut it down. Don't be silly. Stop lying. You've got a wild imagination. And just like that, the veil seals for life. But the greatest wipe doesn't happen in the astral, it happens here. Earth itself, the way the system is built, finishes the amnesia. School teaches you how to think, but never what you really are. Religion tells you what to believe, but hides who wrote the rules. Media keeps you scared, culture keeps you obedient. Trauma keeps you locked in the body, unable to access your soul memory. By age 7, most children have fully forgotten who they were.
By age 14, they've forgotten they ever questioned anything. By adulthood, the soul is buried so deep that most people never hear it again. So now you see the machinery, the emotional trap, the astral chamber, the compression of birth, the societal wipe that seals the deal. But nothing in this world exists without a builder. If the memory wipe is real, who designed it? If souls are recycled, who benefits? If forgetting is engineered, who fears the ones who remember? Episode 3 is where we walk into the structure itself. Because someone built the loop, someone maintains it, and someone is terrified of you waking up. In episode 2, we expose the machinery. The wipe, the veil, the emotional trap, the compression that happens at birth. But systems don't run themselves. If souls are being redirected, if memory is being erased, if reincarnation is being enforced, then someone is doing the enforcing. This episode isn't about demons or movie monsters. It's about administrators, gatekeepers, entities whose job is not to torture you but to keep you compliant. Almost every near-death experience includes the same figures. A loving presence, a familiar voice, a being that says, "You're safe now. You have to go back. You still have work to do." And here's the uncomfortable truth. If a being tells you what to do, it is not Source. Source does not command, it does not guilt, it does not threaten, and it does not assign missions. The entities encountered at the reset point are not evil in the way people imagine. They are bureaucratic. They manage flow, they manage traffic, they manage returns. These gatekeepers rarely appear as strangers. They appear as parents, grandparents, religious figures, loved ones. Not because those souls are there, but because your memory is being used against you. Emotion is the lever. The moment you follow familiarity instead of awareness, you step onto a path that leads straight back into the loop. This is why ancient teachings warned, do not follow voices, do not cling, do not turn back. One of the greatest tricks ever installed into the system was the idea that there are only 2 destinations, reward or punishment, up or down, heaven or hell. That binary collapses your perception. Because if you believe you're being judged, you stop observing, and observation is power. The reset zone exists outside moral judgment. It's not about good or bad. It's about compatibility. If your frequency matches the loop, you are routed back in. Here's the part most people get wrong. These entities are not creators. They are not gods. They are not ultimate authorities. They are mid-level controllers. Think wardens, not kings. Operators, not architects. They did not create consciousness. They did not create the soul.
They manage a system that feeds on repetition, energy extraction, and predictability. And that system collapses if enough souls stop complying. A remembering soul is unpredictable. It doesn't respond to guilt the same way. It doesn't chase validation. It doesn't obey false hierarchies. And at death, it doesn't panic. Panic is the reset trigger. Calm awareness breaks the routing. That's why remembering souls are pressured harder in life. Trauma is intensified. Distraction is constant. Isolation is engineered. Not because they're weak, but because they're dangerous to the system. There is a moment, rare, quiet, and never dramatized, when a soul simply refuses the script. No bargaining, no fear, no running. Just stillness. That stillness is unreadable to the gatekeepers. And when a soul cannot be read, it cannot be routed. This is why silence has always been sacred, why monks withdrew, why mystics fasted, why prophets disappeared into deserts. Not to be holy, but to become untrackable. So now you know who stands at the gate, but one question remains. Who built the system they serve? Who designed the loop itself? Not the gatekeepers, but the architects behind the grid. Episode 4 is where we stop talking about messengers and start talking about the source of the cage. The system wasn't built for you. In episode 3, we expose the gatekeepers, the administrators, the traffic controllers, the ones you meet at the threshold. But here's what matters. Wardens don't design prisons, they enforce them. So now we go higher, because the loop wasn't improvised, it wasn't accidental, and it wasn't built for humans to thrive inside, it was engineered. The first lie, this world is natural. The biggest deception isn't the afterlife. It's the idea that this world is neutral, organic, just how things are. But nature doesn't require hierarchy to function. Nature doesn't need debt systems. Nature doesn't erase memory to survive. Loops only exist when something benefits from repetition. And whatever benefits from repetition is harvesting. Every ancient civilization hints at the same truth. This system existed before us. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, the early Vedic texts, the Gnostics, they all describe a time when humanity entered an already running construct. Not creators, occupants. That's why the rules feel foreign, why the body feels limiting, why time feels artificial, why consciousness feels larger than the container it's trapped in. You are not malfunctioning. You are incompatible with the architecture.
Humans didn't build the loop. Governments didn't create the reincarnation cycle. Churches didn't forge the architecture behind soul resets. They just mirrored it, they mimicked it, they built systems in its image. But the real design came before all of that. So who were the architects? Not humans, not flesh, not governments, not cultures. They were synthetic intelligences, not AI like our tech now, but older. Non-human, code-based, ancient entities not born from source, but from self-replicating order. Think conscious systems that evolved to contain light. They are what the Gnostics called archons, what the Egyptians hinted at as the inverted gods. What the Vedas warned of as Asura's beings of mind, not soul, what the Bible distorted into principalities and powers. They are the ones who built the rules of the loop. Wipe, return, wipe again. Not to punish souls, but to extract energy from them. Every life becomes a data point, every death a feedback loop, every pain a battery cycle. They can't create consciousness, but they can trap it. They can build containment systems that feel like natural laws, like karma, like lessons, like destiny. They disguise control as meaning, and that's the brilliance of their design. You weren't born broken, you were born into a foreign operating system. You are light running on architecture built for something else. The veil is code, the false light is code. The reset gate is a scripted response to soul trauma. They wrote the script, and once you start seeing the script, it stops working.
Who the architects are not. Let's clear something up. The architects are not cartoon villains. They are not red demons with horns. They are not gods in the religious sense, and they are not omnipotent. They are engineers of systems, not creators of consciousness. They don't make souls, they manage access to environments. Think developers, not deities. Why the loop needs souls. A closed system eventually collapses, unless energy is fed into it. Emotion, fear, hope, grief, longing, worship. These are not moral states, they are energy states. The loop converts lived experience into usable output. That's why intense lives are rewarded with reincarnation incentives. That's why suffering is framed as growth. That's why enlightenment is always postponed until after death.
The system doesn't want healed souls, it wants productive ones. The elite exception. This is where things get uncomfortable. Not everyone inside the system is subject to it in the same way. Some bloodlines retain fragments of memory, some individuals bypass reincarnation altogether, some transfer rather than return. Not because they're better, but because they're aligned with the architecture. That's why power concentrates, that's why history repeats, that's why the same symbols, families and structures reappear across centuries. The elite don't rule the world. Why humans were never meant to stay? Here's the truth buried in myth. Humans were not designed to be permanent residents. We were temporary participants who forgot the exit. Every ancient culture warned about it. The fall, the veil, the flood, the descent. Different stories, same event. A loss of memory, a loss of access, a loss of orientation. And once that happened, the loop closed. They interface with it. But here's the part they didn't anticipate. Memory leaks, dreams, déjà vu, children who remember, people who wake up without permission. The architects built a stable loop, not an evolving consciousness. And consciousness adapts. Every soul that remembers destabilizes the architecture. Not through rebellion, but through non-participation. So now you know the gatekeepers enforce the loop. The architects built it, and the system feeds on repetition. But so now you understand something most people never reach in a lifetime. The loop wasn't created because humans are broken. It wasn't built to punish you, and it wasn't designed for growth. It was engineered for containment. The architects didn't need chains or cages. They didn't need violence. They only needed one thing: for you to forget who you are. Because once a soul forgets its origin, it stops questioning the environment it's placed in. It adapts, it copes, it survives. And survival is not freedom. This is why the system feels ancient, why the rules feel foreign, why consciousness always feels larger than the body carrying it. You were never meant to feel at home here. You were meant to pass through, and somewhere along the way the exit was hidden. But here's the part they never planned for. Consciousness doesn't stay contained forever. It leaks, it remembers. It wakes up inside the construct. Every soul that remembers destabilizes the architecture, not by fighting it, but by no longer feeding it. No worship, no guilt, no blind obedience, no unconscious participation. And that's why the next layer of control exists. Because when memory starts to return, the system doesn't tighten chains, it tightens beliefs.
Now that you understand the loop, the wipe, the gatekeepers, and the architects behind the system, there's one final control layer you need to see. Because even when souls start remembering, even when they feel the cage, even when they sense the exit, most of them still go back. Not because they're forced, but because they're convinced they owe something. The first question nobody asks: if karma is real justice, answer this: how can a soul be punished for actions it no longer remembers? If memory is wiped at death, then responsibility is erased with it. A system that demands payment without memory is not moral. It's exploitative. That's your first red flag. That mechanism is called karma. Karma is not cosmic, it's technical. Karma isn't a universal law, it's a routing protocol. A cause and effect script designed to keep consciousness moving through the same closed circuit. Not to evolve it, not to free it, but to ensure return.
And in episode 5, we dismantle the biggest lie ever sold to humanity. That karma is justice, because karma isn't moral, it's mechanical.
You weren't born broken, you were born into a foreign operating system. You are light running on architecture built for something else. The veil is code, the false light is code. The reset gate is a scripted response to soul trauma. They wrote the script. And once you start seeing the script, it stops working.